Chapter 27. Ivram and Isika walked side by side, slowly this time. To her right, Isika saw a ranger checking the nearby rocks. Overhead, the Othra scanned the landscape as well. Ivram seemed to know what she meant. "As far as I can tell," he said, "your soul is returning to its proper home. You are becoming who you truly are, without shame or poison to hinder you. This seems to be your land, perhaps in a way that is deeper than any of us could know." Isika looked at him and saw the questions of the queen's portrait in his eyes. "Please tell me about your mother," he said. "What did she tell you about her life, about her mother?" "She didn't tell us much," Isika said slowly. "I remember that her mother sang to her a lot and that she was very tall, but she died when my mother was only 10. Out of the corner of her eye, Isika saw Ivram stop, and she turned to look at him. He held a hand to his face, and when he pulled his hand away, his eyes were wet. It struck Isika that maybe he had known the grandmother she had only ever heard about. He had been her friend. "Go on," he said, his voice hoarse with tears. "They lived in a city in the desert, the same place I remember living when I was very small, before Iba was born." She paused, looking at the clear blue sky and the red of the rocks beneath them. "The walls in that city were very high. I don't think we could see outside the city." "Did your mother seem to have any abilities?" Ivram asked. Isika didn't have to slow down for him. He walked like a much younger man, without leaning on the staff he carried with him. Isika could see tear tracks on his cheeks. "You mean like gifts?" Isika thought about it, then shook her head. "I don't remember anything. She seemed frail, but she had so many children, and I think she was still very young." "She would have been hardly over 30 when she died," Ivram murmured, and Isika looked at him, startled. "If indeed she was our queen's daughter, I was there the day she was born. She must have had you when she was only 20 years old. Living among poison with so many children, it's no wonder she seemed frail." Isika felt a painful flash of guilt for being one of the children who had weakened her mother. "How did you come to leave that place?" Ivram asked, and Isika blinked back the tears that threatened to come, pressing her forehead with her hands, trying to push away the ache of losing her mother. "I think someone helped us, someone my mother knew. The memory is fuzzy. There was a man, and we left at night. We walked and walked for months, and we finally found the worker village. My mother was strong on that journey, pregnant with Iba and carrying Arya most of the way. She was exhausted by the end, and she never fully recovered." Isika paused and took a breath. "When Arya was given over, grief took the rest of her strength. She talked about a different way sometimes. She told me that the worker way was not the only way to live. I didn't really understand what she meant, and I think she couldn't tell me. Her name was Amani." She looked at Ivram. Tears were openly streaming down his cheeks. "Was that your queen's baby's name?" she whispered. "No," he said. "Her name was Azaria, like her mother before her. Amani was her middle name. But it would have been giving away too much to keep her royal name, the name of our beloved city. Her mother would have kept it hidden to protect her." He stopped in the path, turned his face to the sky, and began to sing. Isika was growing used to Mawil people singing all the time whenever they felt like it. Maybe it was too much, what Ivram felt, to simply think about, and he needed to sing to get the sadness out. "Lost, we lost her. All of heaven grieves. Take this sorrow, oh take this sorrow. Bring back our beloved. Lost, we lost her." Ivram wiped at his face and reached for Isika's hand. "I am almost certain," he said. "I am nearly sure that you are Queen Azaria's granddaughter." The gem on the staff flashed white again, and overhead the Othra gave 3 long cries that raised the hair on Isika's arms and made her skin tingle. Her face flushed with heat. Do you know what this means, child? He asked. You are her descendant. Our lost queen has come back to us. Isika shivered. She knew what he said was true. It had been growing in her from the day they entered the city. But she didn't know how to be a queen, and she recoiled from the thought of ruling anything. She felt small and broken from days and years of serving as a worker. She shook her head swiftly. I can't, Uncle, Ivram stopped her and put a hand on her shoulder, squeezing gently. Don't think too much on it, he said. We'll take it slowly. For now, let us find your little brother. He smiled. We can't lose anyone else. That night they camped in the shelter of a tall red rock. Isika climbed it as the others made the camp, and as she looked, her sight seemed to fly past what she should have been able to make out. She saw the sea and 3 large boats in the distance, perhaps a half-day's journey away. We will reach them tomorrow, she said when she came down from the rock. The others were sitting around the fire and they looked at her, then at each other. Ivram bowed his grey head. Very well, he said, not questioning how she knew. We will be ready. He stared into the flames, his hands resting on the top of the silverwood staff. Arya and Jabari sat side by side, looking over their arrows, talking quietly together. Isika felt a twinge of jealousy as she looked at them, though she couldn't say for what. Perhaps for the way they seemed to belong there, to be natural together in a way she would never be. Arya's face, when she looked at Jabari, was so open, unlike when she looked at Isika and Ben and seemed to be keeping herself miles away. What will we do when we find them? Isika asked. We won't hurt anybody, will we? Sometimes we must fight, Ivram said, though we don't love it and we don't want to cause pain. Isika couldn't stop thinking of herself as a worker, toiling away in a system she hadn't known a way out of. The people who had stolen Kital, did they mean to be evil? She didn't know, and she fretted over the thought of hurting or killing anyone. Niril flew into the camp and settled on a rock next to Isika. Ifir drifted down from a high place in the sky and joined him. To her surprise, they spoke so that only Isika could hear. She could see by the blankness on the others' faces and the echoes in her own mind that she was the only one hearing their words. You will need to be very careful, child, Niril said. The sea people have laid a poison that will attack your mind and the minds of your companions, setting one against the other. We tell you, Ifir added, because as the world whisperer, you will be the strongest against this poison. Isika spoke back to them from deep inside herself, not using words that others could hear, but shaping the words with her mind. World whisperer? Ask the elder, Ifir said, when you are alone. Niril went on. The poison is potent. There is something terrifying, something beyond the sea people alone. This is strong evil of Mugunta's making. Be aware. Be careful. You may be the only one who can withstand it. Isika wanted to ask more, but just then Gavi spoke. Are you talking to them, Isika? Niril, is she talking to you? Niril and Ifir took off in a flurry of wings. Isika nodded briefly at him. Did you see that? Gavi asked Ivram. Isika can mind speak with the Othra. Animal speech. That's a life gift. Jabari scowled at his brother across the fire. I saw it, Ivram replied. He smiled into the fire. But you're about to let those potatoes burn, so maybe you should stick to worrying about your own gift, son. Gavi lunged at the potatoes, which were smoking at the edges, and the company finished their food quickly, turning in for the night. Isika's stomach was tight with fear over the Othra's warning. She felt as though the company was walking into a death trap. She was sure that she wouldn't be able to sleep, but somehow she drifted off. When she awoke, the moon had set, and the sky was filled with diamonds. She wasn't sure what had awakened her until she heard whispers in the dark. I don't know, Uncle. How can we be sure? I do know, young one. I am as sure as I have ever been. It bothers me. I worry that it's poison. Demon magic. Look where she came from. Jabari, demon magic cannot commune with Othra. You know that as well as anybody. No demon magic that we have seen before. What if it's different now? Go to sleep. You'll be tired enough tomorrow without wrestling over matters that have been set in their course from the beginning of time. But sleep, Ivram said, and the command in his voice was so strong that Isika blinked under it. She lay in her bedroll, feeling as though Jabari had hit her in the stomach. He thought she had demon magic? Did she? Her ears burned and tears ached behind her eyes, but she blinked hard, refusing to let them fall. She thought of Jabari reaching to pull her out of the river, of him saying, "You pulled the poison from the river into you." Why did he doubt her now? Was it because he was the regent's son? She thought of the cold eyes of his mother. Isika wanted to be miles away from the camp, away from the hurt of his words. She lay there with her heart and thoughts racing until the stars dimmed and the sun came up. As soon as she could see the shape of the rocks, she sat up in her bedroll and thought for a minute, then stood and packed her things into her sack. She walked away from the circle of sleeping bodies near the dying fire and climbed a short ledge that wasn't too far from where they had slept. The rocks began to glow as the sun rose. She could see for miles. It was so beautiful, it could have made her cry, but she didn't want any more tears. Today was the day. Perhaps the poison from the great waste would be enough to pull the company apart. Perhaps they would all die trying to save her brother. She opened her mouth and sang. She sang a song of beginnings, of the first time the sun had risen on the newly made earth. She sang a song of thanks to the uncreated one, recognizing it as something her mother had sung when she was a child, though the words hadn't made sense to her then. She hadn't known what the silverwood trees were or the crystalline water of a deep lake. She hadn't known about the red rocks and the blue of a clear sky. She had grown up in the desert, then moved to the dimness of the plains. She was being born anew, along with the earth as the sun rose again. When she stopped singing and looked down at the camp, she saw her sister looking up at her. Arya held her hand to her lips for just a moment and held it up to Isika, an old gesture from their mother. Isika grabbed at the air in front of her and brought it to her chest in response.